You're listening to another ambitious Entrepreneur Network.com podcast, the voice for entrepreneurs and small business. Now, onto the show.
Welcome to the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast, daily conversations with Christian entrepreneurs to inspire and empower Christian business owners to walk strongly in their faith, while build a thriving business that honors Him in every way. Now, over to your host, Anne-Marie Cross.
Welcome to another episode of the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast. This is episode 11. And yes, I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross, brand and communication strategist, also known as the podcasting queen. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like sometimes you are burning the candle at both ends? Yet despite the many hours you put into your work, you feel guilty, you feel overwhelmed and frustrated because you know you could be doing so much more. Well, join me on today's show is Elizabeth Grace Saunders. Elizabeth is an internationally recognized expert on effective time management, and she's the founder of Real Life E Time Coaching and Speaking, and that's at reallifee.com. Her company partners with individuals on the journey from feeling guilty, overwhelmed, and frustrated to peaceful, confident, and accomplished. I want some of that, so can't wait to hear what she has to share today. Now, the Divine Time Management Division of Real Life E encourages Christians to join in the journey of aligning themselves with God's heart through her book and group coaching program, DivineTimeManagement.com. She's been featured on CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox, and she contributes to Forbes, Harvard Business Review, Huffington Post, and Fast Company, and now on the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast. Now, on today's show, Elizabeth is going to share, be open to unexpected possibilities, especially when they're God prompted. And I'm sure many of us have had experiences of that. Don't worry about competition, be you, as well as define success for yourself, then align your time with your own definition of success. So welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Greetings from Michigan in the United States.
It's amazing that through this incredible technology, we can connect. We're on the opposite sides of the world. We're streaming live to Facebook, so everybody else who is around can participate as well. So thank God for people who invent amazing technology that we can share our message. So opening up in the paragraph and introduction, we said around feeling guilt, burning the candle both ends. And I know that the journey of business owner, creating your own business, can get really overwhelming. So I think it's great for you to come on the show today to share some of those insights that I think are very, very important. Just give a little bit of an insight into how you got into your business. Was it something you'd always wanted to do, or did you find that God's hand was in various, situations in your own career that you finally decided, you know what, I'm going to start my own business and help others in this area too?
Right. Well, God definitely tricked me into it, no doubt. Growing up, I actually never wanted to be a small business owner. I was very corporate, so very much I love cubicles and I love having a job and I want to climb the corporate ladder. And how I ended up, I'll answer two-part kind of the question. So number one, how did I end up becoming an entrepreneur in the first place? And very much God prompted. So I was working in a job at the time that just wasn't a great fit for me. It was a little bit of a long story how I ended up in that situation, but it wasn't a great fit. And so I had been praying a lot and seeking the Lord about applying for other jobs or what I should do. And I just got this very strong sense that I needed to apply to new jobs, then also resign on my 1-year anniversary, regardless of whether I had a new job, which was entirely different than anything I'd ever done. I'd always been very security conscious, always making sure I had a job. So I started applying for jobs and I got interviews lined up relatively quickly. And I resigned from my job on my 1-year anniversary, and then I got none of the jobs I interviewed for. And I was used to interviewing very well. I was used to always having multiple offers and getting to decide. And here I was without a job. And I kept asking for, ideas about jobs. I was in magazine journalism at the time. And the people I knew didn't have jobs, but they had contract work, freelance work. So they just started giving it to me. And a few months later, I was at a party actually with people from my church, and a woman who I'd never met before, she said, Elizabeth, you love what you're doing. You love who you're working with, and it's working. You're not even trying to get contracts with top national magazines to do freelance work. Why don't you start a business? So that was on a Saturday. And on Monday, it was October 3rd, 2005, I decided to start a business. So that was over 12 years ago. And now here I am. So it was definitely not me. It was the Lord tricking me into something He knew I would love. I just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
And in terms of time management, I'll share that briefly and we can dig in more later if you'd like. It really came out of solving my own issues with time management. So since I had fallen into being a business owner, I had no plan for my schedule or how I'd manage the work. And I felt guilty whenever I wasn't working. So if it was 10:30 at night and I would get home and I think, oh, I should answer a business email, or I'd work on the weekends, and that just wasn't sustainable. It wasn't life-giving. And so I really figured out how to get better work-life balance. And then my entrepreneur friends encouraged me to help others. And so now I've been doing time management coaching for about 9 years and grew that over time from something that was like a much smaller part of my business to something that's now the main thing I do.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story, because your situation and your journey really speaks beautifully, and to be open to unexpected possibilities.
Yeah, exactly.
How often, and maybe this is just me, but we like to have control. We like to have certainty and surety. And sometimes when you're prompted with that little voice, it's kind of like, no, I'm not kind of going to listen to that one because it feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When we are open to possibilities, and this really, I think, speaks so brilliantly into the time management, when we are not so every single minute of our day is accounted for, and we feel that if we haven't worked a solid whatever hours, because it's different for everyone, that we feel guilty or we feel that we haven't done enough. We don't allow, especially as Christian entrepreneurs, we don't allow for God to bring the supernatural, what we do naturally. And also in that instance, we're not trusting Him. And it says over and over in the Bible, you need to trust, you need to hand over control. And when you do, incredible things can happen. So it's just getting over that line, and sometimes it's doing that regularly. You know, we're often challenged in that way. Speak a little bit about what you see happening in clients' businesses and people that you work with. Is there some, like, obviously there's a mindset shift, but what are some things that we can do? Obviously pray for sure, but are there some practical steps to help us become easier for us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll go over some practical steps.
Yeah.
And then also the Christian component. So in terms of practical things, I think number one, and this is something we'll probably dive into later, but it is figuring out what you want and what success looks like for you. So I know when I started my business, I was around a lot of entrepreneurs working crazy hours, and their definition of success was make as much money as possible and grow your business as quickly as possible. That's fine. They are allowed to have their definition of success, but that wasn't mine. And I quickly figured that out, that wasn't satisfying or soul fulfilling. So in regards to our time management, you need to get really clear on your goals. So what does that mean for your business? And what does that mean for your overall life? And for me, I found typically not working at night, not working on the weekends gave me enough capacity to enjoy my friends, enjoy my family, enjoy time with God, and really be able to rest. And so number one, figure out what works for you. So whether that's a certain number of hours you want to work, maybe certain times you want to have off. So having a Sabbath or some other sort of ritual on a weekly or daily basis that allows you to refresh and rejuvenate and spend time with God and others. And then the third just practical tip that I would give you, and of course there's a lot of details around this, but planning is really essential to make this happen. Because it's one thing to say, oh, I want to work less hours. It's another thing to, as a business owner, get your work done and work less hours. And so it really requires taking the time when you take on projects to figure out, okay, how big a commitment is this in terms of my time? Where is this going to fit in? If I say I can meet this deadline, do I see the open time on my calendar? If there's no open time on my calendar, I have to take something out or, set a different deadline. And so as entrepreneurs, I think so often you can fall into the trap of everything's important and I have to do everything all at once. But it's really essential that you step back, figure out the time cost of what you're committing to, find a place for that on your calendar, and then make sure that you're staying consistent with that instead of just trying to stuff more and more in, because that leads to overwhelm and working crazy hours.
Yeah. Those are all very important practical steps. And I think as entrepreneurs, and particularly as Christians, we need to be very mindful of what we are saying yes to, because there can be projects, particularly, everywhere, that we can say yes to. But in that instance that we are saying yes and overextending ourselves, we're just not going to show up because we are stretching ourselves too thin. And sometimes it is being able to say no to opportunities.
Right.
Those opportunities are not ready or not right in this season of your life. It doesn't mean you're saying no to them forever. You may be just putting them on the shelf and later on, because again, if we're too busy, then some of the important things, such as, and what I've really noticed a significant difference, is allowing time, especially in the mornings, or if I'm doing my exercise, doing my personal training first, coming back, having breakfast, and then spending time in the Bible, meditating. That's so important. Seek ye first. Seek me.
Right.
That's what we're
Right.
taught, aren't we? So that kind of, when we follow your principles and really get things in the right order, that's when we can see a significant release of pressure, of guilt, of
Exactly.
Can't we?
Exactly. Well, and that relates to going back to the trust in God. And in my new book, which is my first Christian one, the whole first section is on trusting God at the center of your time management. Because in our world, like for people that aren't Christians, it's not about trusting God. It's about trust in self. And so it can be a very fear-based approach to time management. Like, if I don't do every marketing opportunity, if I don't accept every client, if I don't do this or that, then my business will fail. And so if people don't have a sense of either us as Christians or other people with a spiritual sense that there is a God at work, you can get so uptight and so afraid of missing out or making a wrong choice that you really drive yourself crazy. But, as people of faith, people who believe that there is a power working for our good, we can trust him. And so that means we can trust him to say no to those things that aren't right for us, to set those boundaries, and to rest. Like, the Sabbath is one of the 10 commandments. So it's a really essential way that we tell God, I believe you. Like, I believe you really can do this.
For that.
Yeah.
We continue to work 7 days a week. There comes a time and our bodies will physically go, no more.
Right.
Illness,
Right.
mistakes, things that are getting left because you're just so tired and exhausted.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
Let's talk about not worrying about competition being you, because I think so many entrepreneurs struggle with this, and we have an identity, and that's been determined already before we were born, and a destiny. But let's talk. What's some insights you can share to help us in this area?
Yeah, for sure. So I think as particularly people that are in the service industry, so we're doing things that are things other people are doing. So you have an amazing podcast, but there's other people with podcasts. You're not the only podcaster in the world. I'm a coach, but there's other coaches. There's other people in the world. And I think if you're looking at it the wrong way, that makes you really scared. So you think like, I can't start a business, or, I need to watch what everyone else is doing and try to be as good as them, or do it their way, or all that sort of thing. And you get caught in this comparison trap of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not advanced enough, or I'm not far along enough. And particularly when you're just starting a business, you're not going to be, you're like in the little baby stages of your business, and you're wanting to be, Oprah or something. And it's like, well, there's about 5 million steps in between the two. And so one of the things I think that has served me really well, so whether it was when I was in magazine journalism, or as a time management coach, or now exploring more the Christian part of my business with divine time management, is I actually don't pay that much attention to the quote unquote competition. I learn. So I'm learning. So I'm reading books. I do read articles, newsletters, whatever. But it's not like I go out and seek out like, ooh, what are other time management people doing in a way that I feel like I need to copy them, or that somehow I'm not good enough. If there's things for me to learn, books for me to read, absolutely, I'll do that. But I don't allow what other people are doing or how they're doing it to dictate what I feel I need to do with my business. And I think that is one of the key things that has given me the courage to continue for 12 years, because you have your times when it's really hard, or when business isn't as good, or you're trying something new. And when you believe in yourself and what you have to offer, I believe you're a lot more successful than when you're so concerned about what everyone else is doing that you're either not doing your own work because you're just paying attention to everyone else, or you're not doing it from an authentic place. And people can tell when you're faking it.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to be someone I'm not, like I'm pretty like fun, happy person. So if I was trying to be super serious, it just wouldn't be me, and it wouldn't resonate because I'd be faking it. So yeah.
That's such a great reminder. And, for people who are going to be watching and listening regularly to the show, you'll hear me say again and again and again, especially as a brand strategist, the most unique thing about you is you. And if you don't have self-awareness, particularly around gifts and talents and unique characteristics that we don't need to fake, we just need to bring them out more intentionally. We may be offering a similar service, as you said, or offerings, yet people who are our ideal clients, who we're destined to work with, they resonate with us because of the experience that we create for them. And I think what you were saying is so true. When we get so distracted by what our competition are doing, it makes us feel icky, for want of a word, and then we fail to then express the best of us, which is very innately us. And I think that's just such a great reminder. Let's talk about the definition of success, and because you've already alluded to the fact that when we're looking at time as as a finite commodity, as Christians, we realize there is just our destiny's already been determined, and we need to trust, we need to lean in for sure. But I think if we continue to go through life with a scarcity mindset around money, obviously that's a whole other topic, but another thing, element of time. And I said this yesterday, Elizabeth, in a quote that I shared, here in Australia, it's a short week because on Friday we're celebrating Australia Day. So typically I would say so much to do, so little time. But I thought, no, I'm not going to buy into that BS, because it is the same amount of time. It's just what do I choose to dedicate?
Right.
And I can go down black holes and, of Facebook and what have you. But really, it's how we look at it a lot of times, isn't it?
Right.
What our mindset on that? Share a bit more about it.
Yeah. So I really think it's two-part, especially as Christians. So one is just recognizing, again, your special uniqueness and what matters to you. So like for me, I'm a people person. I love spending time with my family, my friends. So if I'm going to have a happy, healthy life, that needs to be part of what I do. Like it's just kind of a non-negotiable. So that's part of my definition of success, just as much as, how much money I make or what else might happen. Another thing that just personally kind of resonates with my soul is being outside. I love to be outside. I love nature. And when I think about what makes me sometimes feel most happy, oftentimes just a walk that I took, somewhere. It doesn't cost anything, but to me, I feel alive. I can pray, connect with God. And it's so often just those little things that make us us. And maybe your things are different than mine. Maybe it's playing a sport, or it's some game you like to play, or you like to play music, whatever it is. Like, I think it's really important to be in tune with how did God make me and what thrills me, whether it's on the professional side, things I really enjoy doing, or on the personal side, things that when these are part of my life, I feel fully alive and I'm really, really happy.
Yeah.
But then we have a second component here, and this is something that I sometimes forget and I need to constantly remind myself of. And this is, we as Christians, we're not God. We're not God of our universe. We have believe that there is a God that is sovereign and he's given us free will, but who does know best. He loves us. He has a greater plan, in our lives just aren't our own to decide like, well, this is the business I want to run, and this is how much money I want to make, and how much people I want to serve. Not that we can't have those dreams or ambitions, but in the end, we're going to be most fulfilled when we're doing the Lord's will. And so even in my book, in the third section, I talk about alignment with God as a better indicator of success than really our own priorities, because our priorities can be selfish. Our priorities cannot be aligned with his will. And So what I would encourage us to all do, and I have to do this too, is to every day commit our plans to the Lord, pray about, well, God, what are you doing here? What do you want to accomplish? And sometimes something may not be efficient at all. Like it may be something where you're like, I know this person is never going to be a client, or I know that this is not going to lead to XYZ with my business, but God has a bigger plan of what he's doing. Maybe they're having an awful day and he wants you to show Christ's love to them, and just for them to know that God loves them. Maybe there's some other bigger plan that he's at work in. And so when we define success, our success should be, are we being obedient to God? Are we aware of what he even wants? And are we walking in love for God, ourselves, and others? And that will really, I believe, lead to the best life possible in a way that simply going off and doing what other people tell us should be success will just be really hollow.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a real emptiness in that, I think. And all of those things you said are just so important. Just going back to where you were identifying real self-awareness around what you needed. I think for many of us, we haven't taken the time to really understand what's unique to us and what we need. And I'll give you an example is when we talk about introverts and extroverts, and often people think of that as being shy. And yes, some introverts can be quite shy, but the difference, and this is something that I've noticed myself in my life, is that I'm an extroverted introvert. I like being out on stage, like being, speaking, doing my podcast, but in my alone time, I need to be on my own. I need to be in quiet time, because that in nature, that feeds my soul and re-energizes me. So if we then talk about comparison to what other people are doing who are on almost 24/7 days out of the week, if we are trying to keep up with them and it's not innately built in us, that's when we can really burn out. Do you find through the work that you're doing and through the clients that you've worked with and the people that you speak to, that there is a lack of self-awareness, that they really don't understand what is it that feeds my soul? What do I need to bring back into my life that's not in alignment? Obviously aligning ourselves with God, but other aspects that feed us that are so important. You, nature, times with family. Do you think a lot of us miss that because we're not aware of it?
Right. Well, I think it's a twofold thing. I think some is a lack of awareness. So we just have never figured out, and it's funny because I'm actually half extrovert and half introvert. So I can relate to both sides. Like if I've had too much alone time, I'm like, people. And if I've had too much people time, I'm like, get away from me. So I'm like always test 50-50, but whatever. But so I think part of it is a lack of awareness. People haven't figured out what really makes them happy. Another really essential part of it is honestly people just forget. So they're like, oh yeah, like when I go outside, I feel so much better. But they haven't put it in their schedule. They haven't put it in their calendar. Like, oh, when I exercise or do yoga, I feel so much better. Or, oh, I've been feeling really depressed, but that's because I haven't had a meaningful conversation with anyone in a week. And if I had just called a friend, or I had gone to lunch with a colleague, wow, it would have felt so much better. So I think, I know it's factual based. A lot of the things in life that bring us the greatest joy aren't the shiniest and the loudest. And so we really have to, like I put as recurring events in my calendar, for example, like certain things I want to do with exercise or certain ways I know I want to connect with family or friends. And we really need to integrate it into reminders in our lifestyle to make that a priority, because otherwise other things that are louder will shout them out. So whether it's work, whether it's social media, not that I'm against social media, but there's just not a depth to it. And so if you have too large an allocation to social media, you can just end up with, again, that emptiness. Like, well, I know about 500 people, but do I really know any of them? And do they really know me? That if we had taken maybe a chance to call a friend or connect in a meaningful way with someone in our family, we would have felt entirely different about it.
Yeah. Something else that you said, and I think this just is so important with time, and for some of us, we just need to stop and do this, is that saying, oh, when I find time, then I'll do this, then I'll do that. It's not about finding time. It's something that you said. It's about allocating time. It's about looking at your schedule. And if you know that time with family or a walk in the bush, whatever it is, if we're not allocating and scheduling that in our time, blocking that out, time with God, time with prayer, all of that, we're never going to find time. We have to take that first decision, don't we? And say, you know what, this is important. Therefore,
Right.
I'm putting it in my diary, and nothing else that happens is, because that's often what we do too, particularly if we're people pleasers. We look at our schedule and we go, all right, I'll shift that around. But this is firm. It has to come first. We look after ourselves and what feeds us and what strengthens us. Otherwise, we cannot possibly give our best to those, our clients, our family, and those around us. Yes?
I agree. Absolutely.
So, Elizabeth, share a little bit more about the work that you do and how people can get in contact with you.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. So, as we talked about, I'm a time management coach. So, what that means, people are like, what's that? Well, what that means is that I work with individuals all over the world. So I have had clients in Australia before, on improving their time management skills. So often it's people that have never been very good at planning or routines or being organized, and we're really building from the bottom up how to go about that. So that was what was on reallifee.com. And then in particular, because this is Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast, I have some special things that I just want to highlight for you that are the Christian part of my business. So if you go to reallifee.com /TCEP, so it's basically the initials of this program. So reallifee.com, so it's REALLIFEE.com /TCEP. You'll find some of my resources, particularly for everyone listening to this show. So on there, you'll find information about my new book, which I'm so excited about. I can actually show you a copy real quick. It's my baby. It's called Divine Time Management. Yeah, it's my baby. And that goes a lot into, as Christians, how do we take a spiritual approach? And a lot of it is honestly about helping type A people chill out. So how can you do that? And we've got print, audiobook, and ebook. You can find it there. And then I have two other offers. So one is for people that are like, okay, maybe I'm not ready for the book yet, but you want a little something. You can sign up for a free video training on 3 simple tips to reduce stress and reconnect with God in less than 5 minutes. So very low pressure, less than 5 minutes. You'll see a happy little video about how to calm down. I think you probably sense a theme here. I'm all about calming people. And then the final thing you'll see on that page is information about my group coaching program. And so what that's about is God really, really put it on my heart that one of the things Christians really need is community. And some people, for whatever reason, haven't really integrated into a church family in a way that works for them, or maybe they are integrated into one, but they're just looking for something more. And so the Divine Time Management Group Coaching Program, you can find out more about it on the reallifee.com /TCEP, is all about bringing together Christians who are looking to honor God with their time. So it's a great group of people from many geographic locations, and we're really saying, how do we come together? How do we honor God? How do we have this mutual goal of wanting to seek Him first and trust Him most? And I have training that's part of that, but everyone participates, and I'm always inspired by the people on the call. I'm like, wow, I love your faith. So it's a great group.
Yeah, fantastic. And of course, we'll put all of those links on our show notes. To get to the show notes, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, ambitiousentrepreneurnetwork.com /TCE11. ambitiousentrepreneurnetwork.com /TCE11. And of course, if you've only just catching the show, this audio version of the podcast, we actually recorded this live on Facebook. So there's a video. Come on over to that link, and we'll also embed the video version so that you can see Elizabeth sharing her expertise. Thank you so much again for coming on the show. I think this is such a valuable topic for us as stewards for God. There are so many different areas that we need to be stewards, and I think time is certainly one, but to a benefit, so we're not overwhelming ourselves and trying to do too much. And thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insights.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was great to be here.
Certainly was. So just for those of you before we close who really feel that you've got a message that's been placed on your heart to share with the world so you can make a bigger impact. Maybe you are a Christian too. Most often you probably are watching today. But if you're not, please reach out. We certainly can support you, and Elizabeth certainly can support you too. But if you're wanting to get your message out in in podcast format, but you don't know where to start, one of the things that I've done is put together a very brief training for you with some checklists of no-cost and low-cost tools. To get access to that, just go to annemariecross.com/mini training, annemariecross.com/mini training. Before we do go, Elizabeth, what I've done for all of my guests, and I'll be honored to do so with you as well, is to say a blessing, a prayer before we shut the call or close down the call. My goodness, too many things going on. Distractions on my phone. I need to do what Elizabeth's just said and calm and center. All right, don't worry about all these flashing lights. All right, let's just to commit before we finish, a word of prayer. Father, thank you so much for allowing us to spend time with Elizabeth and hearing her share her expertise. It's so important as business owners who are Christians to really, commit our time to you, be stewards of time, because we can get so overwhelmed with the daily pressures and things that we think that we should be doing. So please, Lord, we pray that you'll be with everybody who is listening or watching this call, that the insights that they've learned, that they can apply that to their life. We also take this moment to just uphold Elizabeth and her team and her business to you as well. Continue to bless her as she brings and shares her message. It's amazing that she's been able to write this book and put all of that into a resource that is going to be able to impact the world. So we just thank you for that. And we bring this all in the precious name of Jesus. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. It's so amazing how you can feel the presence of the Holy Spirit halfway across the world. That's awesome.
Sometimes, and it's like, don't do it. If I'm really praying and there's just this immense, the tears just come to your eyes when you realize just how loved you are, and you don't need to worry. And as you said, once we do commit and just, bring our thoughts and our challenges and our overwhelms to him, lay it at the throne, we really can feel this overwhelming sense of incredible peace. So thank you for sharing this message. This is such an important one, and I look forward to continuing to share this out a lot across the globe. So
wonderful.
You've been listening to the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast, brought to you by BeTheDifferenceMovement.com. Changing the world one message at a time. Do you feel called to influence real change with your message? Join our supportive community of like-minded influencers, thought leaders, and disruptors at www.BeTheDifferenceMovement.com. That's BeTheDifferenceMovement.com.